Japan's rainy season is one of the most misunderstood travel periods in the country. Many travelers hear the phrase rainy season and immediately imagine nonstop storms, ruined itineraries, gray skies, and entire vacations trapped indoors. But that's usually not what Japan feels like at all. In reality, Japan's rainy season is far more subtle, regional, and psychologically different than many people expect. Some travelers arrive expecting constant heavy rain and are surprised by how normal many days feel. Others underestimate the humidity completely and end up physically exhausted halfway through the trip. So, what actually happens during Japan's rainy season? When does it begin? Which regions are affected most? How much does it really rain? And is it still worth visiting during this time? Today, we're going to break down what travelers should realistically expect from Japan's rainy season, including weather patterns, humidity, crowds, transportation, photography conditions, regional differences, and the biggest mistakes visitors make during this period. One of the most important things to understand is that Japan's rainy season is usually not constant heavy rain all day long. That surprises many first-time visitors. Instead, the experience is often a mix of humid mornings, cloudy afternoons, light drizzle, sudden downpours, and completely normal weather in between. Some days barely feel rainy at all. Others feel intensely wet and sticky. And that unpredictability is exactly what catches many travelers off guard. Japan's rainy season, known locally as Tsuyu, typically affects most of the country between early June and mid-July. But the timing changes significantly depending on the region. Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka usually experience rainy season from around early June until the middle or second half of July. Okinawa starts much earlier, often around early May through mid-June. Meanwhile, Hokkaido in northern Japan often avoids the rainy season almost entirely because the seasonal rain front usually weakens before reaching the island. That regional difference matters a lot, because many travelers incorrectly assume all of Japan experiences the exact same weather at the exact same time. It doesn't, and understanding that can completely change how enjoyable your trip feels. Tokyo during rainy season is probably the most common experience international travelers have. And honestly, it's not necessarily a bad time to visit. In some ways, Tokyo becomes even more atmospheric during rainy season. Wet streets, umbrella crowds, reflections, neon lights, misty mornings, and softer lighting can make the city feel incredibly cinematic, especially at night. The bigger challenge usually isn't the rain itself, it's the humidity. This is where many travelers underestimate Japan. On paper, temperatures in June often don't look extreme, but the combination of humidity, walking, crowded trains, underground stations, stairs, and heat trapped between buildings can become surprisingly draining, especially in cities like Tokyo and Osaka. Kyoto can feel even more physically demanding, not because it rains harder, but because many activities involve long outdoor walks through temples, shrines, hills, gardens, bamboo forests, and traditional districts. And once travelers become overheated and fatigued, the entire experience starts feeling heavier than expected. This is one of the biggest mistakes people make when planning Japan during rainy season. They overschedule everything. Japan looks extremely efficient online, and it is efficient. But many visitors build very aggressive itineraries with multiple cities, early trains, packed sightseeing schedules, and constant movement every single day. Then rainy season adds humidity, wet clothes, umbrellas, slower walking, crowded indoor areas, and physical fatigue. Suddenly, the trip stops feeling exciting and starts feeling exhausting. The travelers who usually enjoy rainy season the most are the ones who slow down. They build flexibility into the itinerary. They spend more time exploring neighborhoods instead of rushing through attractions. They use cafes, department stores, underground shopping streets, and slower pacing strategically. And ironically, many end up enjoying Japan more because of it. Another thing many travelers misunderstand is photography during rainy season. People often assume cloudy weather automatically ruins Japan visually. But in reality, overcast conditions can make Japan look incredible, especially in places like Tokyo nightlife districts, Kyoto alleyways, traditional streets, gardens, lantern districts, and neon-heavy urban areas. Rain softens harsh sunlight, deepens colors, and creates atmosphere. Some of Japan's most cinematic visuals actually happen during rainy weather. The bigger issue is usually visibility rather than aesthetics. For example, if your dream is seeing Mount Fuji clearly every day, rainy season becomes much riskier. Cloud cover increases significantly during June and early July, and many travelers arrive expecting postcard-perfect Fuji views constantly. That often doesn't happen. This becomes especially important around Hakone, Kawaguchiko, and the Fuji 5 Lakes region. Nature-focused itineraries become much more weather-dependent during rainy season. Transportation in Japan usually continues functioning very well during this period. This is another major difference compared to some tropical destinations. Subways, trains, and urban infrastructure remain highly reliable most of the time. But heavier rainfall can occasionally cause regional train suspensions, Shinkansen delays, landslides in mountain areas, or temporary transportation disruptions, especially during stronger storm systems. Most tourists never experience major problems, but travelers visiting rural, coastal, or mountainous regions should absolutely leave room for flexibility during June and July. One thing that surprises many visitors is how normal daily life in Japan continues during rainy season. Cities don't shut down. Restaurants stay full. Nightlife continues. People still commute normally. Umbrellas simply become part of the environment. And after a few days, many travelers mentally adapt too. That's why Japan's rainy season often feels much less dramatic than people imagine before arriving. But there's one important distinction travelers need to understand. Rainy season is not the same thing as typhoon season. Many people accidentally combine the two together online. Japan's rainy season usually involves persistent humidity, cloud cover, and regular rainfall. Typhoon season becomes more relevant later, typically from August into September, when stronger tropical systems can create heavier disruptions and more intense storms. That difference matters because many travelers become unnecessarily afraid of visiting Japan in June. For many people, June is actually one of the more balanced times to visit, especially if your priorities are slightly lower crowds, more hotel availability, lush scenery, moodier photography, and a calmer atmosphere overall. Cherry blossom season is obviously more iconic. Autumn foliage is more visually dramatic. But rainy season offers something different. Japan feels softer, quieter, more local, more reflective, and sometimes more emotionally immersive. Especially in places like Kyoto, Kanazawa, Tokyo at night, Hakone, and smaller traditional towns. So, is rainy season a bad time to visit Japan? For most travelers, honestly, no. But expectations matter enormously. If you expect perfect blue skies every day, non-stop sunshine, and crystal-clear mountain visibility, you'll probably feel disappointed. But if you understand what Japan's rainy season actually is and build your trip around flexibility instead of perfection, the experience can still be incredible. In many ways, rainy season reveals a quieter version of Japan that many tourists never experience. One that feels slower, more atmospheric, more cinematic, and strangely more intimate. Because Japan during rainy season doesn't try to impress you loudly. It slowly pulls you into its atmosphere instead.